Australia has recorded its biggest one-day spike in cases since the outbreak began. Almost 100 more people testing positive nationwide in 24 hours. But experts warn it's just the tip of the iceberg. The AFL in limbo. Players now forced to weigh in on whether round one goes ahead. This coming as Anzac Day services are axed across the country and schools are taking matters into their own hands, shutting down despite government advice. We have every angle of this unfolding crisis covered this morning. First, let's go to Today Queensland reporter Jessica Millward in Brisbane. Jess, you have some breaking news on recommendations from the World Health Organisation.
Well, Tracy, in the past few hours, we have heard from the World Health Organisation that have described coronavirus as the defining health crisis of our generation. Interestingly, though, they've also said that social distancing simply isn't enough to stop the spread of the virus, that it's all about testing. They've said test, test, test. So they're telling governments to no matter what, if someone wants to be tested, they should be. And if that test comes back positive, they should then isolate. They've revealed that they've sent 1.5 million coronavirus tests to 120 countries across the globe. It comes as our medical authorities predict that in the best case scenario, 20% of the Australian population will be infected. That equates to around 5 million people. Worst case, 60%. So that would see 15 million people impacted. Overnight, the chief medical officers from across the country had a face-to-face meeting in Canberra and they discussed whether or not our restrictions in regards to public gatherings need to be revisited, whether or not there should be different scenarios in regards to the 500 mass gatherings for pubs and clubs versus football games, and whether or not we should be scaling back or indeed shutting restaurants and cinemas. The Prime Minister will discuss their recommendations with our state and territory leaders and formulate a plan going forward. Tracy?
All right, Jess in Brisbane, thank you. Let's go to Canberra now, I should say, to political reporter Fiona Willan-Fee. This is crippling our economy, but more support is on the way.
Tracy, we're expecting more money to be thrown at this in a matter of days. So the Prime Minister's been holding urgent talks with his Finance Minister and his Treasurer. Now, they're desperately trying to prevent a recession. It was just last week that the government unveiled a stimulus package worth $17.5 billion. Now, we're told they're not considering further cash handouts at this stage, but they will soon unveil further support measures. The Reserve Bank is also looking at what it can do, where it will be making an announcement on Thursday, and it's believed that an emergency rate cut could be on the cards. Now, no doubt a lot of Australians are worrying about their superannuation this week after an absolutely horrendous day on the share market. It fell more than 10% yesterday. That's its worst day in more than 30 years, Tracy.
All right, Fee, thank you. Let's go to Today reporter Christina Hearn in Melbourne, where the AFL season is in doubt. Chris, when will we know if round one will go ahead?
Tracy, today, that is when the AFL will make the call, but players certainly want round one to go ahead as planned, albeit with no spectators. This after a phone hookup last night with league bosses and the AFL Players Association. The league has already announced that the season will be cut to 17 rounds, and there certainly is a possibility that the season will be postponed for months. If that happens, we could have this possibility of a grand final held before Christmas. That, of course, would cause headaches with cricket at the MCG. But this is the Richmond skipper on Footy Classified last night.
The players feel as though they're prepared and ready to play this weekend. Now, in saying that, I think there's a lot of depth to the conversations that are being had.
The AFL might not have any choice in the matter because Collingwood captain Scott Pendlebury is currently awaiting test results for coronavirus. Tracy?
All right, Christine, thank you. Anzac Day services are among a long list of events to be cancelled, with most states agreeing to forego public ceremonies this year. The move is in line with a ban on mass gatherings, but a decision hasn't been made on whether to cancel the War Memorial's annual service, which could draw more than 30,000 people. It comes amid fears pubs and clubs will be targeted by another mass gathering ban. Roadside RBT stops have been scrapped for the time being due to the coronavirus. Booze buses have already been pulled from the road as the police force tries to protect officers from exposure. Mobile random breath and drug tests will still take place. Schools across the country are beginning to close despite pressure from state and federal governments to remain open. At least 8 private schools have closed in Victoria in response to COVID-19, while Toorak Public School has also shut its doors after a staff member tested positive to the virus. A spike in cases has also seen 2 schools close in South Australia, and UTS in Sydney suspend classes. Well, there's been an upside to the coronavirus for some residents of a closed aquarium in Chicago. To relieve the boredom, Wellington, the rockhopper penguin, was one of a special few let loose to explore the empty aquarium. Wellington was fascinated by all the fish, but the glass buffer prevented them from becoming dinner.